The following podcast contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Animated Anarchy, the show where we take a critical look at animated movies of all kinds to determine the good and the bad. Hello, I am Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
And welcome again to another episode, and it's Christmas time! Whee! Happy holidays, everybody! Whee! Yeah. And if we got a special gift for you, or you gave a special gift to us, which was your votes, and
we go.
We basically took the gift receipt and returned it.
We didn't mean to.
Yes, okay, well, here's the story. We deeply apologize that I've honestly tried everything.
Yeah.
We were here for like, what, an hour, 2 hours, basically trying to figure out
troubleshoot it.
What
happened was we asked you on the last episode to vote on 4 VHS movies to watch
because I had like 4 VHS movies that were really surrounded with Christmas themes,
and of course the one with the creepiest, ugliest cover,
yes,
it gets the most votes, the nuttiest Nutcracker.
Yeah.
So we were ready to watch it. We had a whole you had a connect thing where you can connect a VCR to the computer.
Yeah, I have basically, this has worked before. I've actually been able to record VHS video off of this player and record it into the computer. And I've done it before. I've recorded like VHS tapes before. So it has worked.
Like the Battletoads cartoons
and
stuff like that.
Yeah. So there has been proof that it has worked. So for some reason, all of a sudden, no sound would go through. Like there was absolutely no sound. We could see the video, but we couldn't hear anything coming out of the VHS player. So I tried a ton of things. I tried to troubleshooting it. I tried to futz around with the settings. There was absolutely no configuration settings with the audio that would come up. I restarted, and nothing would come up, so that didn't work.
Then we tried bringing the VCR into where we usually watch our movies and plugged it into the TV.
Yeah, so I tried another computer and tried it with different configurations. I tried the Elgato, which also records from composite
cables.
Composite cables to HDMI, and I've recorded off of that before, and that works. But again, it would not, like, the sound worked for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, it wouldn't show up on the TV.
The picture wouldn't come through.
Yeah, it was like there was something wrong with. I guess
what happened was it
blinked on and off.
Probably because of the interlacing or something. What happened was it kept losing connection and having no source, and then going back on and off. And so we were watching the previews on this VHS tape.
And we couldn't see it on like this tiny monitor that was on the side. That it was just, everything about it was not working. So then I decided, you actually said like it's a shame we don't have one of those
like just a traditional bulb
tube TVs, and I was like, wait, I do have one in the garage. And so I went down into the garage and I lifted this heavy-ass TV,
like a 40-pound TV,
around my car, like because I have all this other crap that's in the garage, and I had to like just move it across there. All I had to do was just at least get it into the living room, and that way it could plug in the VHS VCR player, and that even that didn't work.
What happened was it's one of those TVs where if you try to use the channel buttons on the television itself, it won't go.
There are only 4 buttons on the front of this TV:
volume up and down, and channel up and down. Oh, and power.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no input button. It said on the VCR channel 2, and we went to channel 2, and nothing would show up. It was just snow.
And then even there was no remote control, and then you had a universal remote control that we tried to. We went online to find codes.
This remote control has absolutely no model number on it.
So, in long story short,
I hated this movie even before we had a chance to watch it. I hated this thing so much looking at it, and I was saying, it's like, this movie is going to get so many votes, and then now I hate it even more because we can't even get the damn thing to work. The VCR player does not want to watch this thing. It must be terrible because we cannot find anything on
we
online.
We went online and tried
we tried to find it on YouTube. We tried to look for it on like torrent sites, and like this movie for all reasons should not even have to exist.
The only one we found was one of those, what do they call them? Videos where they have Sonic the Hedgehog and the Nuttiest Nutcracker.
Oh god, yeah, there was like a
like in
weird,
like 20 parts.
It's like a YouTube poop or something that was like 6 parts.
Yeah.
Someone, what? Why?
So we ended up just going. Usually, I'm not going to mention the name, but we go. Usually, I go to a site to catch up on all the shows because I don't have cable.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, they usually
this
have.
was
a lot
our
of
last resort, basically.
So we went on there to see. Look, why don't we just search Nutcracker?
Yeah.
So we looked then to see if the Nuttiest Nutcracker was on there, and
there was 6 results that came up.
All Nutcracker.
I can't remember the first. When we looked it up, it's like, okay, the Nuttiest Nutcracker is like nowhere to be seen, and I just gave up. I was like, you know what? I feel really bad that we're letting the 10 people that voted for this movie. I am so sad that we let them down. Whoever you schadenfreude jerks are. I mean, but I basically says like we can't watch this movie at all. I think this is a sign we should probably watch something else. So
don't worry, next Christmas we'll make sure to have a working VCR.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to. Well, one of these days it'll probably either fix itself or I will find an alternate solution because this has worked before. This happens to me so much on technological issues. It's like something works. And then the next time I try it, like a couple months later, it doesn't work.
Maybe.
I am seriously technologically
because a lot has happened
cursed.
Probably in the last couple months.
Maybe. I mean, like, updates,
and you need to update the software.
Yeah, because it really all depends. But either way, I have tried my best to get this to work, and it didn't. So we went for an alternate solution.
So we looked up
we looked for Nutcracker, and the first thing that we spotted was a Sanrio Nutcracker movie that we played for like about 5 minutes, and we didn't know what was going on because it was such a bad
dark
transfer.
Print. Yeah.
It was so dark. We saw little moving blobs of something, and then it's like, I can't watch this. This is like we really cannot see anything that's going on. So the next option was the Nutcracker Prince, which oddly kind of like sparked a memory to me for a minute because it's like, I swear I've seen this somewhere before. I probably haven't seen the entire thing, but I know that I've seen this somewhere. And sure enough, like after we watched it, this was a movie that was theatrically released.
It was a Canadian animated film,
and it was released by Warner Brothers Studios
in
1990. Yeah. And it's directed by Paul Chablis and produced by Kevin Gillis, and they're both
the creators of the Raccoons.
Yeah,
so it's kind of come full circle.
It has
in a weird way.
And that's really weird. It's like not until after we watched it, we were just like looking up information on this. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I mean, the guy who voices Burt Raccoon.
There was an additional voice on here. Who did he play?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was he the king?
Len Carlson.
Was he the king?
You know what? I wouldn't doubt it because it does sound like
not the Mouse King, a separate character.
Yeah. There's another king in this movie. But without further ado, we are going to talk about 1990 movie The Nutcracker Prince,
which was a complete fluke. Like we just went into this blind.
Yeah, we went into it blind. I mean,
listen,
we have not seen The Nuttiest Nutcracker before, so it was best that we seen something that was, first off, something we haven't seen, and second, something that is probably very bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, we wanted to make it up to you by watching a movie that was like close to what you asked for, but something that was different.
Yeah.
So The Nutcracker Prince. We start off in, I guess, ye old century Germany. I suppose, because all the characters are like German names, like Fritz and Mr. Doofenshmirtz and Douchebaggenmeyer.
Oh god. But it's based on the story of the Nutcracker Prince and the Mouse King.
Drosselmeyer.
Drosselmeyer is his name. But it's based on a book.
Uncle Drosselmeyer.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's these two kids. What's the girl's name?
The girl's name is Clara, and the little kid's name is Fritz, who I'm glad is not in the movie a whole lot, but
because he's annoying.
But in the beginning of this movie, we're heavily introduced to these characters, which I don't know, just kind of like is slowly paced.
Yeah,
in a way,
it's not really a good introduction to who these characters are.
No, because like their personalities are all over the damn place.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden they're really nice, and then all of a sudden they don't like each other or something. Because Clara, when they go back to their home, we're introduced to her older sister, I guess, and she's just kind of like, either doesn't like her or something, or thinks she's like better than her or something.
She's matured.
Yeah. Well, yes, she's matured.
And even the parents are like, that'll be Clara's last doll.
Oh.
Because she's growing up so fast. Oh, and another thing too is that we looking at this movie, even in the first 5 or 10 minutes of this movie, clear Disney knockoff. Like it is.
Oh yeah,
evident.
The main character looks like Belle,
even though it came out before Belle.
Yeah,
it's probably more like Ariel, if anything.
Yeah, more like Ariel. I should say, like, because the main soldier, the Nutcracker Prince, he looks like
kind of like Prince Eric.
and among other things, we've noticed when we were watching this, but we'll get to that. So yeah, Clara and Fritz, I guess it's like Christmas Eve. They get their presents, and we are introduced to Uncle Drosselmeyer, who is a
clockmaker,
or a toy maker.
Yeah.
And I guess he's magical as well, because he just flits his hand up and magical sparks come out. And before they go home, they meet him at his shop, I guess.
Workshop.
And he mentions that his son Hans is coming soon or something. And of course, Clara's immediately interested because she is blossoming and into a young adult. And but then that is immediately cut off by the fact that we get like some really weird animation of them running through the fields and
through the woods and down a slope and
and while we're watching this, we're noticing the animation is like fairly bad.
It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it didn't start off very well, honestly. Like all the designs are, well, I mean, mediocre at best, and then we have like just these weird walk cycles and run cycles that just kind of like make the characters look like they've ridden on horses all day.
The animation is serviceable, like it serves its purpose.
Yeah, but it's not like,
it's a little sloppy.
We're not going to say it's theatrical quality.
Yeah,
even though this is a theatrical release,
it's kind of like Filmation quality, like feature animation.
I would say, where it's like there are moments where there is well animation, but then there's like the moments where you say like, oh, they got really tired here. Like they got really pushed or something.
Like the animation of Clara is so inconsistent that there's times where she looks borderline like ugly.
There have been so many moments where her eyes were going in different directions, and they stopped at those
they would hold the frame. They would hold the pose on a really awkward frame. And it just seemed off.
And she always looked like she got hit in the head, It's like, I mean, even though she hits her head a lot in this movie, she looks like it.
Yeah. And the thing is that we kind of went in going, oh, is this going to be the whole movie?
Yeah.
And, they have a huge banquet party, and all these people are invited.
All these people come in. It's like, how's your arthritis, sir, dirigible or whatever?
How's your goiter?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
There's got some weird banter in the background.
And then, they introduce a bunch of characters that kind of just disappear.
Yeah.
Like the older sister's boyfriend and...
Well, in a sense, it kind of reminds me of, like, the whole idea of Alice in Wonderland, how it's like, it's a kid that does not really care about logic and like the changes that she's going through or something. She doesn't want to grow up. Peter Pan sort of syndrome, I suppose.
Kind of like Wendy.
Yeah.
She kind of looks like Wendy a little bit.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. But it's like it's that idea where it's like the innocence of youth is kind of like growing up.
Yeah.
But they don't want to grow up, and there's still some magic there. So it's kind of goes through that. But it's like this is like a whole. It felt like a half an hour of introduction that just did not need to happen.
Especially with a lot of characters that just kind of fell by the wayside after the first 15 minutes. And she's got like a little kitten named... What was the name of that kitten?
The name of the kitten was... it's some weird...
It was like a Russian name.
Pavenmeyer? I don't know. I don't remember. It was like really... an unnecessarily long name for a kitten that is just...
Yeah, but it's kind of like a Figaro knockoff cat, and the cat runs like a robot toy, like a toy animal.
Yeah, this cat's like his body structure was very much
rigid.
Very, very rigid. And I was like, there were moments where I was even catching this, like, did the hind leg even move when it was walking over here? So,
like, it's weird. It moves like a puppy, but it's a kitten.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. But either way, so they have this
But it's supposed to be cute. It's just, little kitten.
And so there's this big banquet, and she's just bored. Everyone's partying.
We were bored.
We were bored.
We were bored. We were like, this
movie's getting weird.
This needs to get somewhere fast.
Right. And so she discovers under the tree a Nutcracker who her uncle... was it Doofenshmirtz?
Uncle Doofenshmirtz, Uncle Drosselmeyer.
Drosselmeyer.
Yeah. And we should mention that this is heavily based off of the actual Nutcracker suite, the ballet.
Yeah.
The story by E.T.A. Hoffman.
Yeah, well, it's the story of the Nutcracker Prince and the Mouse King.
Mm-hmm. Which is a very...
It's a loose but more or less accurate adaptation of the story.
Yeah, it is.
And the music by Tchaikovsky, the Nutcracker suite, which is sporadic at best. Like, it appears, and then, like, for a whole chunk of the movie, it just doesn't appear.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's, like, if you're expecting this to be, like, a big musical, it's not.
It's not at all.
It really is just a straight-laced story, but with some familiar music in the background at once, and then there is only one song that is actually spoken out, and it's lyrics to dun 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 dun,
like the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Yeah.
So they just like shoehorned a bunch of really bad like song lyrics over it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not very good. I mean, it's kind of like what they did. I mean, in Sleeping Beauty, they did very similar with
That's true.
Once Upon a Dream, which is they just used the Tchaikovsky music for the Sleeping Beauty.
But with that, it's like I honestly felt it was a little bit more powerful. For this, it's like
it just seemed.
But for
like
this movie, it just seemed like
they didn't have nearly the budget and the time that Sleeping Beauty did to make this movie.
Yeah, so I won't fault him for that, but at the same time, it didn't work.
So she gets a Nutcracker from her uncle.
Yeah, who enters the banquet in like I hate to say this with a bang because he basically has just lit fireworks. He has like lit live fireworks into this banquet, and everyone is just like watching in like amazement
and standing still,
while fire is being shot into their banquet, and they should be afraid that things are going to light on fire. I mean, like
it's an old tree that has candles in it. Yeah. One bump and that thing's going up.
Yeah.
But he brings in this big ornate clockwork castle with swans and soldiers.
Yeah, I was like, this is my gift to the family, and immediately, this is so weird to me. It's like all of a sudden the kids start questioning. It's like, does it have like these? Do the geese like
have
fly?
Lights and sound action?
Does it like? Yeah, exactly. Do the geese like fly? Or do the tin soldiers like shoot? And Drosselmeyer's just like, no, that is impossible. How dare you kids question my toy making skills?
Kids don't appreciate.
Yeah, there was like some weird off statement about how kids don't.
He even like marches off in the father's like, well, on with the party, and they
it's like that was just like, okay, well, I don't know if that's supposed to give us a message about something, but here we go. Whatever message that was, it was completely lost. That's all I'm saying. But later on, Clara sees the Nutcracker and like brings it up and says like, "Oh, what a cute little Nutcracker."
I'll show you how it works. And
yes, Uncle Drosselmeyer's just there. Uncle Drosselmeyer is just like really creepy.
He looks villainous because he's got a missing eye. He's got an eye patch.
But I mean, like, I know that the character from the ballet actually like looks like that. He has like the eye patch, and he's supposed to be very like, you know, this mysterious clockmaker that like introduces toys to everyone, and it's like but for this movie, he really seems creepy because he has like that very weird grin that he has, like weird, a smirk,
creepy stare,
like looking around the corner at the children. So it's like, yes, find the Nutcracker. Yeah, and so yeah, but Drosselmeyer introduces the Nutcracker and says like, here, watch this, a nut crack, and then it's supposed to be endearing.
And then Fritz, the annoying little brother's like, let me try.
Yeah.
And there's no nuts left in the bowl, so he takes one of the cannonballs from his toy soldier set,
brings it in, and then just
breaks the front teeth out of that Nutcracker.
Yeah.
And we were wondering like why, because the thing is, throughout this movie, you look at we looked at a lot of the designs, and we're like, why does that look familiar?
Yeah.
And we were looking at the Nutcracker with the missing teeth, and every time he appeared on screen, I just went, because he looked like he was going to whistle through his teeth. But we're like, why does that character look familiar?
Yeah.
And then at one point, he was on screen.
At one point, he was on screen, and you
went like, I didn't know Leopold could dance. And we're like, it looks like Peter Lorre. That's what it looks like.
It does. The Nutcracker looks like Peter Lorre, and it was hilarious. I needed to stop the movie because I was laughing so much.
Yeah, it was really funny.
But I mean, that's part of the story. The brother comes in, breaks the Nutcracker, and he isn't scolded at all. He is just basically says like, "Oh, oops, I broke it. Here, have it, Clara."
I don't even want it. It doesn't even shoot guns.
Yeah, it doesn't even shoot guns, and he runs off. And it's like, oh, how terrible. And then Drosselmeyer's just like, it's okay.
Take good care of him. And then,
Take good care
and then it's weird because you're like, oh, this movie is so weird.
Yeah, this keeps going.
And then suddenly, he starts telling the story...
Yeah.
Of the hard nut?
Yeah, the story of the hard nut. And it goes into like a completely different style. The animation is 10 times better than it has been before. And it's basically like it turns into a fractured fairy tale type storytelling about the story of the hard nut, which is like about basically him and his son who I guess
they're in a kingdom with a king and a queen and a princess.
And the queen of this kingdom makes like this cake for the king, and it is suddenly ransacked by the mice queen and her son,
voiced by Phyllis Diller.
Yeah, but the queen is voiced by Phyllis Diller, which she doesn't really have a whole lot of like play in this,
and she doesn't really
movie.
Sound like Phyllis Diller.
No, it doesn't.
And she's in it for this sequence.
Yeah,
and it's a really fun sequence. Like the animation was like popping, and we were suddenly like really excited.
Yeah,
like,
it was like
this
really
was great.
It was a really cartoony like segment. And I almost felt like saying, it's like, God, the whole movie should have been like this.
Yeah.
You know, it should have been really fun and cartoony and poppy, and like seeing all the mice that looked like Angry Beaver characters. Yeah,
we were like it's like were they on this movie?
Yeah, I seriously thought like for a while that, you know, like a ton of people that I knew who had this looked like their work, you know, because it was just. It had this like look to it that was just so completely different from the rest of the movie that I just like. I really like this. I really like the way it looks, but we're, at some point we're gonna go back to the boring look.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they're basically retelling the story about how the cake that was made by the queen was ransacked by mice, and then it turned into an ugly cake, basically. And so when it got to the table, the king got pissed off, but everyone says like, "Oh, it's such a nice cake," and he's like, "Oh, yes, all right." So everyone, let's have a cake. But then his daughter says like, "Oh, that's an ugly cake. I'm not going to eat that cake." And then I kind of got lost here.
It kind of got weird, and then
because like
suddenly
whatever message was gonna come across, that was also lost as well.
Yeah, we kind of.
I kind of understand it. It's like it goes into like I guess some sort of message about beauty or something, but then the Rat Queen puts a curse on the princess
and bites her
and makes her ugly.
Yeah,
and so. Somehow this is the fault of Uncle Drosselmeyer and Hans. I have no idea why, but
I think what happened was the king ordered him to capture the mice.
Yeah.
So he set up traps and he captured all but the Mouse Queen and her son.
Yes, that's right.
This big hulking dumb mouse.
Yeah, I completely forgot. It's because like the king basically says like, yeah, I need someone to catch all the mice because they ruined my cake, and so. Drosselmeyer and Hans catch all the mice except for the queen and her dumb son, and the Rat Queen bites the princess, makes her ugly, and then it's on them that they have to figure out how to fix this, which turns into this really convoluted way of like trying to figure out what the hell they should do.
Yeah.
And then they come up with this weird scheme. It's like, we will blindfold all of the men in the kingdom to come in and crack this nut, this like cracker tooth nut, and they have to use their teeth to open it. And it started to come into like this scene where it's like really gruesome, where
everyone's biting this thing and their teeth are shattering.
Their teeth shatter, and there's like blood.
You just hear like crack, and then like. You hear that in the background throughout the scene because you start seeing like the Mouse Queen in the background. You still hear cracking, the sound of teeth shattering and hitting the ground, and like that. It's so weird, and then finally, after hundreds of people have their teeth freaking broken,
basically there are no good teeth in this kingdom anymore.
So then Hans
does it.
Ends up doing it and cracking the nut open, giving the nut to the princess, and she eats it and turns back to normal.
And then he does this thing where he steps back like 4 times or something.
And he actually gets knocked into.
They didn't really explain like
why
this worked, I mean, I guess it's part of the story. Listen, if this is a German story, I will believe it 100 times because it's like it is so weird and cryptic that this has to be a German story, you know? I've seen like German stories and fairy tales that are just like they end like with total abuse and horrid things happen to people. You know, children die in these fairy tales. Yes, exactly. Stuff, yeah. So, but when you're trying to tell like a story like that, you kind of have to know what things would make sense and what things won't. So try to like limit it a bit. So you don't have to be completely accurate, you know? Yeah. Sometimes it would make more sense on paper than it does like on the screen.
And it's funny because then after that, he's oddly counting backwards.
Yeah, and then the Rat Queen puts
a curse on
him, which
turns him into a Nutcracker. But he falls and hits a bunch of columns and they all fall. And first it hits you just see the mouse, the son, get his tail bent and crooked. He's like, my tail, mother, look what they. And then he looks down and there's mother.
There's the Rat Queen, like right under a column, just crushed. It's like they don't.
And he takes the crown and claims himself as the Mouse King.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty funny scene.
It's funny. I mean, it's oddly well animated.
Yeah. Well, I should say throughout the entire time this story is happening, it's a really weird story, but there's a lot of stuff like around it that are like extra gags from characters. Like, you know, there's like a guy who like cuts off the heads of people, and
the executioner,
yeah, and he's like, there's funny scenes where he's also blindfolded and he's like swinging around, and there's people in the backgrounds that are just like really funny how they move, and
it's worth checking out this movie just for that sequence alone.
It's really fun. I
wish the whole movie looked like that.
Exactly. I repeat. Yeah, so that story just ends, and we go back to Uncle Drosselmeyer talking to Clara, and then all of a sudden the party's over, and it turns into like nighttime, and she can't sleep, so she, I guess, lights a candle that is already lit but doesn't have a flame on it, which was really weird. It was one of those animations.
She goes all the way downstairs with her kitten, and they go into where all of the toys and goodies and things are kept in this locked case.
And this is the part that I remember from the ballet, where it's like, this is where it starts. This is where the magic starts. Drosselmeyer is the owl in the clock that basically, is like this magical being that, sends out this magical force over the entire room, and the mice are coming in, and which are really funny mice. I mean, they're pretty hilarious.
They look like a bunch of angry beavers running around.
Yeah. And then the toys come to life, and then the Rat King, who I really wish was animated better, because of
the style, we were so used to seeing him in the style of the cartoony hard nut sequence.
Yeah, and then they kind of like they gave him a little bit more detail, but
he looked kind of like a Don Bluth.
Yeah, when he came in, he's like, you mentioned that. He's like, oh god, he looks like Don Bluth, but without like the really extravagant animation to it. So yeah, there was that. So
and then all these toys come alive, and we're introduced to more characters. One of them is like a Southern Belle doll. An old lady doll that looks, just in certain scenes, just looks like Bill Dotrey in drag.
Why do you keep calling me Bill?
It's odd, but she's like the matronly mother. And then there's Pantaloon. Who is, oddly, he's voiced by
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole, and he's just this kind of Merlin-y, Don Quixote-ish looking.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like the leader of the toy soldiers,
and he's kind of this old bumbling fool.
Yeah, it's like they have him as a leader, but then also the toy soldier. I mean, the Nutcracker, who was voiced by Kiefer Sutherland, and he's supposed to be the leader of the toys or something. He's like he's the prince of the dolls now.
Yeah.
So. And I mean, he even wakes up. He's like, "What? I don't understand. Last thing I knew, I was trying to save the princess." And then
he looks and realize. And the thing is, he takes being a Nutcracker very well.
Yeah,
like he looks in the mirror and goes, "Ah," and then that's it. Like he's like, "Oh no, I'm a Nutcracker."
Like, oh.
And also, like another thing too.
So this happened now.
Is that some of the vocal deliveries? Like we mentioned before that Phyllis Diller is the Mouse Queen. Didn't sound like Phyllis Diller. It could have been just anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't really need to be Phyllis Diller.
I almost felt like there was some... I guess they couldn't get Phyllis Diller after she initially did her lines, and then they had someone else kind of like dub over those.
It's really weird. And then Peter O'Toole character barely has any kind of notable anything, so he's kind of there for nothing. And then Kiefer Sutherland is so downplayed that even in a heated scene, he sounds like he's whispering into the microphone.
He's like, "All right, soldiers, get ready,
aim,
aim, get the cannons.
I'll get you, Mouse King.
I'll get you, Mouse King, if it's the last thing I do."
Might as well be like, what is it?
And then And then we have like the Rat King, voiced by Mike McDonald, who is, I guess, like a comedian.
He was a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, Canadian stand-up comedian.
Canadian comedian?
Yeah. And he is just like loud the entire time, like, "Ah! I'll get the prince, and I'll get the Nutcracker now, and I'll turn him into splinters, and And then Keith Summers is like, "Man the cannons. You there? I'm appointing you as the
lead of the cavalry.
We need a.
I don't even have a horse." And it's weird. And then now there's a huge battle a really comedic battle between the mice and the toy soldiers.
Yeah.
And while all this is going on, Clara is just watching.
Yeah. Nothing
is going on.
Basically, she was like us. She's just watching everything happening.
Like, she can obviously step in and be like, "Fuck these mice." And
yeah, fuck you, mice. It's rat spray.
Raid! But yeah, so this whole thing goes on, and then and there's a big fight between the Nutcracker and the Mouse King, and Clara
takes her shoe, which is in in the ballet, and then she throws it at the Rat King, and basically, like, he falls into a candle or something, and then
he falls. He's carrying a candle because he's gonna.
Oh yes, yeah.
He's gonna burn the Nutcracker and turn him into soot or something, and then she throws the slipper at him, and his tail catches on fire. He's like, my tail.
Yeah, his crooked ass tail.
And then somehow, I forget, she slips and just bashes the back of her head.
Yeah, she falls back, hits her head on the glass of the
door of the grandfather clock,
and then just blacks out. And at that point, we're just like thinking, like, she did. But the next morning, she has a bandage on her head, and Frisk comes in and is like, "I brought you chocolates.
I ate most of them.
I ate most of them, but here, you can have the rest. I'm just a big stupid baby."
Why does he sound like Detective Heart of America?
Yeah. Yeah, and Frisk, like, just comes in and leaves.
Yeah, and she has a Nutcracker, and it gets
This is basically the whole, Nemo the Dream Master scene of like, oh, we just woke up from a dream.
Yeah.
And then...
You're back in bed.
Yeah, and back in bed, and then time just marches on again.
Yeah, there's one scene where you're outside the window.
Yeah.
And it gets dark, and you're like, okay, it's night. And then
she just woke up.
Yeah, no, but she just woke up, and then throughout the whole, I guess she sleeps the whole day because she's resting because she hurt her head pretty bad.
Yeah.
So and it's funny
because she has like a glass shard in the back of her skull,
and it's funny because there's a scene where you see it's the outside of a window and it's night and it goes to dark and you're like, oh, we're gonna cut back inside at night, and then for some reason it crosses off again to even darker night, where it's like, so it's even later than that.
It made me think it's like later that night.
Maybe a little more
later, 40 years from now.
And then you go back inside, and she wakes up, and the Mouse King.
Yeah, the Mouse King is like, "Here's your slipper. I brought it back for you." It's like, "Oh, thank you." Shut up! You hit me with this, you bitch.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so then she lures him into a drawer with chocolates.
Yeah, with chocolates.
Smashes his tail.
Yeah, again. Like, my tail.
And then she runs down again to where the Nutcracker is, and then there's another battle between the Mouse King and him.
Yeah,
they climb the Christmas tree, and then suddenly, and I think at one point, Pantaloon gets bashed and he gets his mechanism.
Yeah, he gets his
broken.
The key in the back, the wind-up key gets like broken or something,
and then that's his act of revenge. The Nutcracker goes and climbs the Christmas tree, and they fight. And then at the top of the tree, fucking stabs the Mouse King.
Yeah, you hear off screen like, ah! And then it cuts to the bottom of the tree, and then you see like, woof, his body just falls. And then later on, the Nutcracker comes down. He has a bloody sword,
and there's blood pooling underneath.
And he just like drops it like it was like some murder weapon that he didn't want to.
Blood.
Oh God, what have I done?
And so they kill the Mouse King.
They kill the Rat King, and he's.
But then they're like, oh no, we got to save Pantaloon. We got to go to the Kingdom of Toys.
Yeah.
So then Dusselmeyer...
More magic. Yeah. More magic from the Dusseldorf.
From the grandfather clock. And Clara gets shrunk down.
Yeah.
And they go to this land of toys. And it's kind of this pointless sequence of them flying swans.
At this point, I was just thinking, it's like, isn't this movie over?
The climax is over.
I was like, this movie should have ended 3 times, honestly. I mean, there should have been several moments where this movie has proved that this does not have a beginning, middle, and end. It just has ends, There's no real middle ground. It just is like, how did we get to this point?
Yeah.
I was like, what are we supposed to learn in between what has happened and what is going on?
And it's like we killed the Mouse King. That's it. And then
he's dead.
And we looked at like, oh, how far are we into the movie? It must be over soon.
No, there's 20 more minutes left.
And we're like, what's going on? So they go through this whole thing, and then they're at the castle.
Yeah, they're on like swan. They're on like these geese. It's like, oh, there's geese with the necklaces on, which was something that she mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Or something like. We're flying off. They go through a waterfall, and all of a sudden they're in different clothing, and Peter O'Toole is all good again. He's like, oh yeah, I'm my old self again. Yeehaw, woohoo, yeah, woo. He slaps his knee. And
Peter O'Toole, Shakespearean actor's brightest moment. But so then they go to this big, the kingdom in this big palace and this thing, and they have a party, and they're like, well, why don't you stay? And she's like, and she's finding excuses.
Yeah, she's worried about but my brother and
my kitten, and I want to be a ballerina. And
I can't be here. I can't stay on lemonade.
And they take it really badly. They all just freeze
they all just freeze and turn into toys again. It's like, oh god, don't take it like that. And it's come on.
And then suddenly
the Rat
and then it's
King.
weird. The animation gets so much better here.
This is probably the best animated scene in the entire movie. Yeah, honestly,
is the Mouse King is back, and
it's creepy. It's actually pretty creepy.
Yeah, he's clutching his chest. His eyes are red and yeah.
And he's bleeding, and he has these really
creepy, crazy
eyes, glowing eyes, and he's creeping up closer and closer to Clara, and the Nutcracker can't do anything about it. He's just like, no, Clara, because he's turning into a toy again. And then, she's just throwing muffins at him
and pastries and desserts.
And he's the Rat King is basically on his last legs. He's just creeping up towards.
And we were wondering, how the hell did you get up here?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you fly your own swan, clutching your chest with blood?
Yeah, there's he's on a goose,
having to get through the front gates.
Yeah,
with the guards. Oh, and there's a weird moment that's kind of random where there's the kind of the Blanche Devereaux kind of Southern Belle doll.
the Southern Belle doll
with a Russian soldier.
Yeah, she's there are a couple moments where I think she's fucked these guys. Yeah. She's basically gone out into the back and had her way with them.
Yeah.
But it's there's that moment where she's in the water, and then this Russian soldier comes up and is like, oh, you look very beautiful. I will have you as my wife. And she's like, oh dear, oh my stars, I have the vapors. And they just... There's that moment where it's I guess those two are together now. There's a lot of characters in this where they don't have any real purpose. It's just they're kind of there.
And we were saying before that there's a lot of characters there's a lot of characters that look like other characters. We mentioned, some of the mice look like angry beavers.
Yeah.
Some of the Bill Dauterive and drag character, the Merlin.
The Southern Belle character looks like the character from Raggedy Ann and Andy, the French
Babette,
doll. The French doll. She looks like that, almost.
It just screams. If you saw this video on a shelf, you would look at it and be like, "Oh, Disney knockoff, really bad."
Oh yeah. They're definitely trying. Yeah. It's like the Swan Princess. It's kind of they were trying to. Kind of cash in on the whole thing that Disney was doing, but
right.
But
right at the tail beginning of the Renaissance.
Yeah, because what came before this? It was Little Mermaid, right? Yeah, so definitely they would make the Nutcracker look like Prince Eric, and then Ariel would look like Clara. I mean, it's Clara would look like
Ariel to an extent.
Ariel, yeah. So it's just gonna happen,
right? So so she gets cornered by the Mouse King, and the Mouse King just falls off the balcony.
Yeah,
into the water.
And she's hanging off the ledge, and the Rat King just falls off. It's ah! Splash. And I guess he's dead. So, and she climbs up, and honestly, all of this was really well animated compared to the rest of it. So,
she wakes up again.
And
then she's in a panic, and she puts on her shoes and her coat and runs to her uncle's.
Yeah, so
I must know what, because the Nutcracker's gone. She can't find the Nutcracker.
It's she definitely sounds like a crazy person when she's going up to Uncle Drosselmeyer's. It's my God, there was rats everywhere, and that was a toy, and I was like, oh my God, where's the Nutcracker, man?
The story's true, and
even Uncle Drosselmeyer's just oh my God, what's wrong with you, kid? You hit your head way too many times.
And then you see Hans,
his son, coming in.
His son or his nephew?
I think his nephew. Wait, it's his nephew. So wait, what? So he's the uncle to Hans, but then also...
No, well, they say earlier in the movie that they call him uncle. They're not actually related, but they call him uncle.
Yeah,
anyway.
I always get
it's alluded.
Confused.
It's weird.
I hate that. I hate it so much because it's like it's the whole Uncle Donald, Uncle Scrooge thing, you know, where it's just like, who are they the nephews of, and who is the uncle of who? I mean, Donald says he's Donald says
in the case
Uncle
of Donald,
Scrooge, and
Donald is Scrooge's sister's son, and Donald is the uncle of his sister's kids.
Yeah, okay.
But technically, I guess Scrooge would be granduncle, but they just call him Unca.
Yeah, I guess so.
Unca Donald or Uncle Scrooge.
Well, anyway, so we meet Hans, and she's immediately smitten, because, there were a couple moments, actually, which were really funny. It was like when they were going into the swan, or the swan, whatever they were, to carry them on to the next area they were going to. And there was a moment, it's like, or was it Hans?
She kept calling him Nutcracker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Nutcracker, you don't have to do that for me. We're friends. And immediately it says, friend zoned.
Yeah. And you see, the expression on his face is just like, oh, we're just friends.
Yeah. But then later, it's like, I love you, Nutcracker. So, how did we get to that point?
Well,
yeah.
Love is fickle.
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
Love is blind.
And it's so weird because, and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
And we're like, really? That was a weird movie. Because the thing is, going back, it's like...
I almost want to see, the actual play again.
You know what I was going to say? I actually have never seen the ballet.
You really should, because I haven't seen it in years, but I remember bits and pieces of it. I think, the Rat King was three-headed.
Yeah, it was a three-headed rat.
Yeah, but in this one, he's just a fat rat that, with a crooked tail. And he's menacing, I guess, but the animation doesn't really sell that to me. It's like he has this great voice that would have been great to animate to, because I really like the fact that he was so loud and boisterous and, hateful, and it would have been fun if he was a little bit more, joyful in his villainy,
Yeah.
So there's that, but... It's funny that the Peter O'Toole character, the Pantaloon guy, he was probably one of the most well-animated characters in the movie. And any scene that he was in, it was just
really well
they
animated.
really did a good job with him. But he served no purpose.
Yeah.
Most
of the characters serve no purpose. The only characters that really serve a purpose are Clara, the Nutcracker, and the Mouse King.
And the Rat King, yeah. So, yeah, I mean... But going back to how the whole story was, it's like this just didn't... Nothing about this just seemed very coherent. It was like we start off with the kids and we get a sense that there's some sort of family disconnect happening here, and the Clara is basically pissed off because she's growing up and she doesn't want to grow up or something, or she's pissed off with her sister a whole lot. And then we have Uncle Drosselmeyer, who just comes in, tells a story, stops that story completely to tell a different story, which is essentially the backstory to what we're about to see. So I almost feel like...
It's very disjointed.
Yeah, it is very disjointed. I almost feel like maybe that part could have been after the first time she saw all the magic happening. So it would have been she has a Nutcracker, and she talks to Uncle Drosselmeyer and says oh, it's a Nutcracker, and then the teeth break, and it's oh, you can take care of it. And then she goes then it's nighttime, and then she goes downstairs, and then all of a sudden all this magic happens. And then the next morning when she hit her head, she goes to Uncle Drosselmeyer's what happened? It's I thought I was I feel like I was dreaming or something. And then Drosselmeyer would say the whole backstory of this kind of reminds me of a tale about a clockmaker and his nephew.
It's weird. I actually kind of disagree, because
really?
I feel that by setting up the background to the Mouse King and the Nutcracker and how they came to be, then having her go downstairs after hearing the story, she's clearly dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
she has this experience where she sees the characters from the story she heard the night before, and then she's like, oh, and now they're fighting, and it's kind of, I think you're setting up to her.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just,
but I mean, it doesn't make it any less disjointed. Right. I mean, it really is kind of jarring how we're all of a sudden introduced to this completely different world. It looks like, to me, it's like I remember these fairy tales that were made like years ago in the like late 90s or early 90s, late 80s, that appeared on HBO, and they were basically fairy tales that were animated, and they were supposed to be like very well animated, fractured fairy tale sort of things, but they were like very accurate to what
the original source material.
The original source. So it was almost like, hey, we had this story made, let's kind of like put it into this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's so weird because the only thing I would say where I feel it kind of gets a little odd is that you go from one set style world to another.
Yeah.
And then you introduce a bunch of characters like Hans and eventually the Nutcracker and the Mouse King and the other mice. And then suddenly the story ends, and then she wakes up, and then the mice and the Rat King and all these characters look different, completely different.
Yeah.
So it's like a second version of those characters. But I wish we said it before, and we'll say it again. We wish the whole movie looked like that cartoony hard nut sequence.
Because it was so much more fun.
And we were laughing almost every other shot because there was something really, either the animation was really weird or really funny, or there was an odd expression on a character's face, or a line reading was very funny.
Yeah, and they even kind of carried off that kind of silly antics from the mice in that story onto
in the battle sequence.
Into the battle sequence, because like there are moments in there where it's like you see the mice running around. It's like running off,
like
and
3-frame runs where you just see these what looks like a mouse-shaped object bouncing in frame at rapid pace, like and running across. And
it's fun stuff. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and I think for me, the best part of the movie is the hard nut sequence.
Yeah,
with the crazy fun animation of those mice. With next to that probably being the animation near the end of the movie that really where Clara, because the rest of the movie Clara's design is very inconsistent and it's very poorly done. And there's even we also forgot to mention there are sequences like during when they're running in the beginning or during when she dances with the Nutcracker. It's very rotoscoped. And it's really jarring looking.
Yeah,
how bad it is.
And then there was like that sequence where they're dancing, and that was rotoscoped, but it was also but they kind of blurred it,
so it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah,
make it pink.
Yeah,
we were commenting that it just like looks like a
make it blue.
It looks like something either out of like the dream sequence of Sleeping Beauty or Fantasia or something, where it's like they're clearly in love. And this is the moment where if I was a kid seeing that movie, I would have been like, I mean, I was like that now as a you know.
Let's think about this for a minute. So we start off the story, and it's very slow in the beginning. It's very slow. The pace is like
molasses.
Made me really tired, honestly. It's like before it even started. And then it goes into the really silly backstory of what is going to be later introduced.
That's like a 10 or 12 minute sequence.
Yeah, and that's a fun sequence. It's very energetic. It kind of like wakes you up. And then it kind of goes into the first ending portion of it. It was like that whole backstory was the middle part of it. And then it goes into the end, which is that battle sequence, and then the Rat King like flies off, and it's like it really felt like this entire thing could have been the ending, you know, in a sense, because there's so much stuff happening, and there's so many characters, but you haven't been even introduced to them yet, and so much stuff has happened. I'm just thinking like they're kind of like just blowing the wad right now, and then it stops, and then it goes back into a quick middle portion again. And then it goes into another ending, which is the part with the battle with the Nutcracker and the Rat King, where the Rat King like falls from the tree and dies in the bloody sword. And then it continues that ending by going into this toy world.
We have to save Pantaloon.
Yeah, we have to save Pantaloon, and that was like just a dumb, stupid excuse to like continue this. It's like, oh, Pantaloon's gonna die. We have to go to the toy world, and it's just like
it was really
and then it goes into that, and there's another ending where it's like the Rat King comes back and he's gonna kill Clara, but then she
wakes up and then she gets kind of a weird kind of anticlimactic ending.
Yeah,
and that's what I hate about like. We had that discussion kind of about with Good Dinosaur and how I feel about certain movies like the Lord of the Rings movies.
Mm-hmm.
When there's a movie where it feels like, okay, the movie's over.
Yeah.
Why are you still going? Like it's going for another 10 minutes or 12 minutes. After I know it's big shock the Mouse King comes back.
Right, yeah.
But because the thing is, there's a point where you get really excited after that animated sequence, and the battle sequence is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of almost want to just drift off to sleep.
Yeah.
Even when the Rat King comes back at the end, it's sort of like it's paced very weirdly, and things are kind of all over the place. And
yeah.
I think it needed a bit of a more solid structure and a clear up, and it felt like a weird roller coaster where some hills were higher than others, but it was kind of disjointed.
Yeah.
It was really, yeah. But I mean, like, there were aspects I was honestly surprised by.
Thinking about this movie makes me sleepy, honestly.
It does. I'm actually like close to yawning every 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's like, and I've seen you. It's like, it just makes me like my eyelids just get like really heavy.
Because I don't think you see my mouth when I yawn behind my microphone here because I got the guard here.
Yeah.
But it's really like, I'm just so, you're right.
The only thing that really woke me up was that middle cartoon in there. It's like, and I don't know. I was like fighting myself keeping awake with a lot of this because I don't know if the entire story of the Nutcracker is that. I mean, let's be honest. Like, if you were in the theater, in the audience, and you weren't really into ballet, this would be very sleepy to you. You know,
I mean, going in as a general audience goer to go see what would be considered a quote Christmas movie, such as the Nutcracker Prince, I would see this and be like, it's kind of cute, but I'm not engaged.
Yeah.
Like, even the character of Clara, who her design, like I said, is so inconsistent that her personality is kind of just sort of lacking, and her design is nothing to really scream home about.
She has no point. I mean, like, honestly, like, when it comes down to it, she's just basically the point for all the toys to actually come to life.
Right.
And there are many points where she could just intervene and, like, you know, she could throw something at the Rat King at any moment.
She's not a very proactive character.
No, and she's just watching everything happening. It's like she's just she's looking down, like.
I mean, I haven't seen like we said before. I haven't seen the ballet.
Yeah.
So it could be very close to the ballet, and I don't really realize
for all we know.
I would love to see the ballet. I mean,
it's been a while. Like I said, like I've only seen bits and pieces. I only remember bits and pieces of it because I remember I have seen it several times. They used to have TV specials about the Nutcracker ballet. It was a huge event because it's a Christmas tradition.
Yeah,
and
if I'd known about it, I would have gone to see if there was any kind of, you know, ballet.
Yeah.
Here
but then again, we didn't really plan on seeing this in the first place,
right,
so it's like we didn't really have any.
It's funny how it came all back to nuts because this movie had the hard nut in it. I wonder if they played that up in the Nuttiest Nutcracker.
I don't know, and I don't think we'll know unless I like actually figure this.
Fix your VCR, fix your TV, or whatever.
We'll. Yeah.
So again, sorry, folks, but at the same time, no, not sorry.
Yeah. All I can say is, in a way, I'm happier that I have seen this instead of whatever the hell people voted for.
Yeah.
Because while I was really sleepy watching this, I was relieved that I wasn't angry, you know, after seeing it. So,
I mean, honestly, though, I'm glad that we had to, because the thing is, we had to watch this on the computer.
Yeah.
So we were sitting in these desk chairs looking at Andrew's Cintiq screen, which is a big enough screen, but it was still not too big.
Yeah.
And if I was sitting on the couch like we normally do when we sit in your couch,
we probably would have fell asleep.
I would have nodded off.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty lax of a movie. I would rather, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think people should check out this movie just to know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and the biggest laughs. The biggest laughs were all the mice. Like, I mean,
the mice stuff were great.
Yeah, and we were riffing on it quite a bit. It was just it was just to keep us awake, honestly.
Yeah, in a way.
And there was a lot of fun. I mean, like there was a lot of fun stuff to like just poke at fun.
Oh God, you know? I mean, you nearly. Plotsed when I was just doing
the freaking Peter Lorre. Like whenever you whistle, whenever the Nutcracker was on screen, because
he had these two big missing teeth, and we thought that was going to be like a part of his design when he turned into the prince.
Oh God, no! Teeth. It's like all of a sudden he had perfect teeth again. Like,
well, the guy fixed it.
No.
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
He didn't at first. He did afterwards. But there was that one moment where it's like he came like to life, and he was just like perfect teeth forever. So
yeah, I'm just speaking. Like we were hoping that he would have just this big gap, and because every time he appeared on screen, I would just be behind Andrew going, and it's so creepy because you just look at this creepy Peter Lorre looking Nutcracker, and then suddenly you just see, and it just brings down the whole mood.
And sometimes he looked like Buddy from Animaniacs. Sometimes he looked like the Peter Lorre.
He looks like the original design of Woody from Toy Story.
Yeah,
I mean all the characters. I mean, when he became the prince, he just kind of looked like Prince Eric, and if Prince Eric and Pinocchio had a love child.
Yeah, because he still had that weird button nose.
The button nose, the wood plank nose, and oh yeah. I mean, even some scenes looked like Magic Voyage, which is a movie that we both remember.
Yeah, when you mentioned that to me, I was like, "Oh, come on! Why do you?"
Yeah, and I even mentioned.
I mean, the rats, obviously, because like the rats were just so like
the big cheese,
the big cheese.
Oh, God, but
how very nice for you, but where's all the garbage?
Another thing too is that I thought the style of the cartoony sequence reminded me of. Do you remember Garfield: His 9 Lives? It was a special where it was all different styles.
It's been a while since I've seen.
But there's one that was styled very cartoony and very graphic.
Yeah.
And, in that,
I know what you're talking about. I just haven't seen the animated version of that.
Yeah. Oh, you've read the book.
Yeah.
Where Garfield kills a woman.
Yeah.
Why don't they have that in the special? I guess we don't want Garfield killing anybody.
We don't want Garfield killing people.
That's not nice. Oh, that stands against everything Garfield's for. Like non-effort,
or not killing people. Yeah.
Well, mostly the non-effort.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the Nutcracker Prince.
That's the Nutcracker Prince,
and hopefully,
and honestly, it's something that should be experienced. I don't know how accurate it is to the actual Nutcracker play. But there is, I feel like there's more accuracy to this than we're letting off, because that story of the hard nut, it's like there is no way that this can't be an old fairy tale, It's like it's so weird, and so many weird dumb things happen, but it's still fun to watch because it's like the way they interpreted it was fun.
Yeah. And like a fractured fairy tale.
Yeah, so yeah. And the king was really funny. He was like, he had that voice. He kind of sounded like Yosemite Sam.
He looked like Yosemite
He looked like, and he's like, ooh, now I'm gonna get that rat queen.
Ooh. But
yeah. So yeah, it really is sleepy. I mean, it's. I'm not going to say it was a good movie because it really wasn't. The animation was just very
passable, but not spectacular.
But not. I mean, if you watch this, you would not think it was a theatrical release. Honestly, it felt like this is something that I just found on a VHS tape that I didn't know probably aired like in Germany somewhere. And
I had no idea this thing existed before we saw it. We just kind of stumbled on it. So.
Well, no, the thing is, the more I watched it, the more I remembered that I saw this when I was a kid. Like this, they would show trailers and stuff about it on TV that it was a theatrical release, and I was like, I remember actually seeing parts of that. It's kind of like when I saw Cats Don't Dance on TV when they would show trailers of it. I didn't know what the hell it was because they marketed that movie so terribly.
Yeah.
But later on, I actually watched the movie and I was like, oh hey, I remember those parts.
Yeah.
And even now, it's like I remember there were parts where I remember the teaser trailer to Aladdin before it came out, and I didn't know Abu was a monkey. I thought it was just like a hairy
boy.
Yeah, like a hairy child, and there was like no other shots of Abu that made it look like a monkey was there, and then there was like very mysterious shots that were on it that I just couldn't really comprehend until I saw the movie, and then I understood what it was. So it's like, you know, I in a sense that's very clever that they can do that for trailers and not give away anything of the story or the characters or anything. It makes you want to see it because those visuals make you want to see it.
Yeah.
It's like those visuals are like, they make you like scratch your chin and say, like, oh, I wonder what this is about. And then when you actually see it, it's like, oh, wow, this is like completely different than what I thought, but I love it, you know? But with this, it's just like, oh, I just remember these certain parts of it, and I remember this was a thing that existed, but now that I have seen it, it's just like, oh, there really is no mystery to this. So
yeah.
It just kind of is what it is, and it's not very good.
Yeah.
So,
so check it out. And
no, yeah, but with that said, I mean, you probably could easily find this movie online, and it's...
we did.
Yeah, we did. It was certainly easier to find than a Nuttiest Nutcracker, which I...
Probably was buried for good reason.
Yeah. But at some point, we're going to have to make it up to the audience to, like, probably watch it at some point. We have a whole year.
Oh, yeah. Next Christmas, guys.
Next Christmas. Yeah. Or who knows? Maybe we'll have a Christmas in July or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was the Nutcracker Prince, and... take it for what it's worth. We want to wish you the happiest of holidays this year.
Well,
as
no, yeah.
Well,
we hope everybody has a really nice holiday.
Yeah, we know there's a lot of people out there who are probably going to be traveling this week, and we wish them all the best and the safest trips. And we just hope that you have a great holiday season, a Merry Christmas. Kwanzaa or whatever.
Hanukkah's over. Hope
yes.
you guys had a very nice
yes.
Boxing Day is coming up. After the day after Christmas.
Yeah. And then New Year's is coming up. Wow.
Yeah.
This
year flew by.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to do. We're gonna do a year in review.
Yeah, I was gonna say
for our next podcast. We're gonna look back at all the movies that came out this year. We're gonna say, it's like, did we see it? Did we not see it? What did we think? What was the best? What was the worst? And we'll just kind of like do a 2015 look back, you know. So that will be the next thing to look forward to. So should be a nice
little tag for the end of the year.
Yeah. So with that said, please look for us on iTunes and Stitcher and give us a favorable review about our show. That will be your gift to us. So we're not asking for anything much. I mean, you don't need to like buy it. You just have to go on and give us a nice review and star us. 5 stars or whatever it is. And also you can find us on Facebook. We have a page / Animated Anarchy Cast, where you will most likely be able to best contact us and get updates about what we're doing, and also give us conversations and messages about stuff that you would like to see, or help our show out or whatever. Yeah. And
we're also on Twitter.
Yes, we're also on Twitter. Mike?
I'm at A Guy Who Draws.
And I am at AWD Twit. And with that said, we wish you the happiest of holidays. And
we will see you next time.
We will see you next time. And No nuttiest Nutcracker.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, sorry.
That was the lump of coal.
We
spared you the lump of coal.
Yeah.
That's what we did. That was your bad. That was your naughty. That's put you on the naughty list.
Yeah, you're all naughty. And now I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, I think I need a nap. I gotta drive home after this. I'm gonna drive.
You sleep in your car with the Sugar Plum Fairy song and your...
Oh my god! I mean, no, that'll really put me to sleep. I mean, I love the music.
Yeah,
I grew up with the Fantasia.
Yeah,
Nutcracker Suite. So for me, that's a big deal. But if I try driving home, I'm gonna play some, I don't know, Doobie Brothers to get me awake again or something, or sea shanties or something.
Yeah, sea shanties.
Yeah. I've been listening to
those don't lull you to sleep.
No, I'm not, it's not like Rockabye Baby or something. It's like like Blow the Man Down.
Right.
What Would You Do with a Drunken Sailor?
Yeah.
Songs that don't put you to sleep.
Yeah, for the holidays.
I assume they sing those at holidays.
Yeah.
On boats. 150 years ago.
It must be Christmas somewhere.
Every day is Christmas for a pirate.
What would you do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with a drunken sailor early in the Christmas morning?
Doing a little jig in your chair. I can only see you from the waist up, so it's actually really funny. I just sing, you go, God. All right, well, you guys all have a good one.
All right, Merry Christmas, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm the Mouse King.
I am the Mouse King. I tell. Really did yell.
Hey, Fozzie! You got a message from Jay Little. What do you want? He wants to see you at his house.
Did he sound angry?
I just take messages. I don't just tone. I don't drink coffee. It agitates me.
He is so far my favorite character in that thing, and he's only appeared like 5 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the one thing where he's like, Big Mean Al or Big Mean Carl did this, and then you see the UPS guy who's delivering packages. It said this side up, and he put that side down.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
There's a lot of yelling so far.
Oh.
All right, so we're good. Where did I put the...
It's not a turkey leg.
Okay.
It's a goat head.
It's not a turkey leg. It's a goat's head! And I'm just like imagining like the coachman's face when that happens, like
oh, boob hump fuck.